Why is it much harder for men to meet women? Note, I did not say dating is harder for men, I said meeting people is much harder. For example, nowadays a guy can forget about Tinder. I'm curious to why this is. Considering there are roughly as many men as women. Could someone please explain this to me? Because a lot of women avoid frequenting places with a lot of men when alone. My friends and I included. I don't think meeting people is hard. I think most guys, myself included, naturally struggle to sorta introduce themselves to women. It's easy to introduce or talk to a random guy, but not a girl. I think this is due to a number of factors. One is of course fear of rejection. But the other is that I think for women, when a random guy just strikes up conversation with her, then it's assumed he's trying to hit on her. This doesn't apply if it's a friend of friend. I'm talking pure random. I guess most of us guys are just a bit scared. And that's something we should all work on getting over. Both men and women are dying of thirst, men in a desert, women in an ocean. For women, there are safety concerns. In a lot of ways, women see the world differently than men. Years ago, a bunch of friends went to check out a bar none of us had been to before. When we discussed it after, there was a clear line dividing the likes from dislikes. The guys loved the place, good music, good prices on drinks, good crowd, fun. The women said they'd never go back, poorly lit parking lot with bushes, long dark corridor leading to the women's room. The place had a vibe that the women felt, the men didn't. I believe the term one woman used was too murdery. End number X200B, so, that might be a part of it. Smiley face, because no one is really looking for us lol. I think by nature, men are always taught to be the ones pursuing relationships, whether it be friendships or dating, because it could otherwise result in our own loneliness, which is why we learn to get better at it over time throughout our personal development. I am not afraid of men, per se, but I am just tired of getting hit up for just. The biggest tell is when they spend most of the first conversation complimenting your appearance. Don't do that. Every time I say this I get yelled down, but men overall are absolutely terrible at taking good photos / presenting themselves well. Y'all need to find a woman, even if you need to hire her, to help you build your profiles. I've gone out with so many guys that I met in the wild or was set up with, and when I'd find their Tinder profile I'd be like, this is you. I would never swipe right on this. Why did you make yourself look 100% uglier for no reason? We should all just give up and let humanity die off. Because everything men need to do to meet women has pretty much become stigmatized. I have a lot of trouble meeting women. I'm not bad looking, but I'm pretty introverted. And none of my friends are good for introducing me to women. No matter how many times I've asked them. Last girl I dated I met at a concert. That seems to be my sweet spot. I tend to be a lot more outgoing at shows. Which sucks, because you can't really talk to people at a concert usually. Biggest threat to a woman's safety is a man. Other men. For every genuine good male who wants to nicely ask a nice looking woman out, that same woman has been sent 15 pics that week or was told you're not that cute anyway when they politely said no to some guy. If a man gets approached by a woman, he doesn't have much to worry about in terms of danger. If a woman gets approached by a man, before she can interact with him she has to try to assume he is not dangerous. We naturally have to be more on guard and less open as a safety feature. I'm a woman and find it difficult to meet men, dateable men. It's difficult, disappointed face. I was under the impression that it's much easier for men. Can you explain what you mean more? You say it's harder for men to meet women. But you clarified that you are not saying dating is harder for men. Are you saying that men just meeting women in general, as friends or acquaintances and not as a future dating prospect, is harder? Why are you posting this in the dating subreddit then? Sorry, not trying to be mean. I'm genuinely trying to understand your question. Because, A, you're competing with more men for attention than women are competing with other women. B, women are no longer pressured into relationships because they have the wealth of opportunity in front of them they did not have before, so you also have to be better than the quality of life those opportunities can provide. C, lot of men act pretty shittily towards women, so it's just safer for a woman to not engage with a man, on average. It takes a lot to be open to meeting men after decades of harassment and abuse. Being a nice guy or a normal guy for me personally, isn't enough to make me want to risk my safety. Lots of women feel that way. The guy needs to come recommended by a friend, or met over common grounds like in a cooking class or art tour, etc. They have to have tons of high quality attributes out the gate for there to be any interest in meeting. I don't think this is true. The reality is that women have as much trouble as men in the dating scene and they complain about it just as much. Take this sub for example, but they experience their difficulties in different ways. Men usually have a difficult time securing a date, and this is what they often complain about. Which when you think about it, makes sense. In dating, women take most of the risk. They more vulnerable to abuse because they're smaller and weaker. They can get pregnant, and they often get judged more harshly for dating choices. It's a lot to consider and the consequences of making the wrong choice can be scary. Therefore, it is in their best interest to vet again and again and again before going out with guys to minimize the risk. For guys, it's a numbers game. It is in our best interest to ask out as many girls as possible to increase the chances of finding a girl that deems us worthy. However, for many guys, their underwhelming results often leads to self-doubt, insecurity, frustration, and sometimes just giving up. Women, on the other hand, usually have a difficult time securing a relationship, and this is what they complain about. Again, it makes sense if you think about it. Women get flooded with requests for dates online and in real life, and this often leads to choice overload. When faced with too many choices, there will always be this fear that you may have made the wrong decision or that you might have missed on something better. Women in this position often become indecisive, frustrated, and dissatisfied with any of their choices. Another consequence of having too many choices is that it leads women to nitpick and make decisions over arbitrary. This comes at the cost of vetting properly, which in turn increases the chances of them ending up dating a guy who's less than satisfactory or a guy has the same problem as them where they also have too many choices. This all can be overwhelming to deal with, and some women choose not to deal with it at all. One could say that men and women have the same issues in dating and meeting people, just on different ends of it. Even though there are as many men as there are women, the dynamics of the dating scene don't make any sense. I'm not sure what the right solution is, but the current playing field is rigged and everybody loses. Women view men as predators. Don't say not all men, we are on guard always. From a young age males try to sleep with us or us. I wish I was kidding but I'm not. Then you get a job and you perpetually sexually harassed. We stay wary of men because of it. Hope that helps you figure it out. We're uglier, we're hornier, we're creepier, we can't take no for an answer, we aren't all as emotionally stable as we like to think we are, we're generally more dangerous, and any good or redeeming features that we have get drowned out by the frequency and severity of the bad ones. We're doing this to ourselves, and if we want things to change, we're gonna have to start challenging and fixing the more terrible aspects of our natures/cultures/societies/behaviors. After all, nothing changes if you change nothing. Is it that much harder? Feel like if I put the effort in I could secure 1 to 2 dates a week through various methods. I'd say dating is harder for us though because women are the ones presented with the abundance of options from the get-go. For me to become someone worth dating, I had to develop my career, status, social skills, etc. etc. My younger self could meet girls, but because I didn't have a handful of those requirements, these dates would more often than not end in failure. Everyone looks at every man like a predator. At the gym you don't even accidentally glance at a woman or you might get kicked out of a gym. On TikTok there is a blind guy who posted content proving he got kicked out of a gym for staring at a woman. He is blind, he was staring into space, damned if you do or don't. Just look at the social climate. Many women are generally fed up dealing with the average straight man both within and outside of romantic involvement. There's a lot we put up with at work, school, home, the grocery store, the gas station, the sidewalk, etc. and women are tired. LOL. Of course not all men blah blah blah, but there are plenty at this point who would rather avoid men as much as possible if they aren't friends or actively dating. Yes. A lot of women have friends and family to fill emotional needs. They do Sunday brunches with the girls trips, spa days. There is a lot of self-care, emotional support, and they make their own money as well. So, for a lot women, the questions becomes, should I stay single or should I date any of the men available to me? And a lot of them are satisfied with the life they are living, that they have to ask themselves if they see any value in pursuing a relationship. So, while yes, technically speaking, there should be an equal amount of single men and single women, I think women are more okay with being single than men are, especially when they are younger. So, they make themselves less available, or at least they appear to be less available. Men are not competing with other men, they are competing with the full life a lot of women are already leading. They are only willing to be in a relationship if they believe it will make their life fuller. There is also the fear of being seen as a creep. Even if you are polite, it's hard to know these days what is appropriate and what's not. It's easy to introduce or talk to a random guy, but not a girl. No. They are both equally hard AF to do. I am just gonna sit there and enjoy my music while hoping someone notices me. This. Just talk to women. Introduce yourself, be genuine, make conversation. If it clicks, it clicks. I wish more guys would be confident enough to approach me. I tend to make the first move these days. That's the smartest thing I have ever read. An example of patriarchy negatively impacting men. This is accurate. You can find a lot of guys willing to hook up but not interested in a genuine connection leading to a possible relationship. Yep, and every date seems to end up with them trying to sleep with you. Since noticing that I reject everyone that approaches me. I don't care that you saw me and decided you want to take me out because you think that increases your chances of sleeping with me. It's weird, like who TF are you? My now fiancé had a awful profile. He was either wearing a mask or sunglasses in all his photos and I had no idea what his full face looked like until our first date. I would have never swiped right if I had seen his profile first. He liked me first on Hinge and the reason I matched with him was because I was high AF and I thought his name was silly. I don't understand why people get so pressed when someone says this. It's historically and statically true. We get it, not all men, but a good man that understands women's problems and empathizes with women wouldn't go around saying not all men. Not just any man. Squeeze it. Here's a surprising stat. Statistically speaking, the person most likely to harm a woman is her current partner or ex-partner. So not a random strange man, at least statistically speaking. And the most common place for them to be assaulted is in their own home. Regardless of the incels commenting below, this is a 100% accurate statement. I assume they are dangerous until I see otherwise. Depends on what your idea of dateable men is. I was under the impression that it's much easier for men. Also depends. In general though, no, it's absolutely not. The average guy gets about 3 matches a month on things like Tinder. The guys who don't have a problem are generally a problem guy and you should stay away from them. My GF's brother is a egotistical sociopath, who if could literally wouldn't see a problem with starting a business using slaves, and he can get a new GF every 2 weeks if he wants. At this point I have come to the conclusion that the reason why well-rounded guys, the good guys, spend time working on their personality in life that they don't spend a lot of time working on game to pick up chicks and therefore often get ignored. We're the ones that don't have a problem because their social skills, only worked on game and have a flat personality. But seem way more interesting at first to women, so women go after them / show interest. One offhand comment that does add to anything, I just feel like sharing. I haven't had a single date where the girl didn't enjoy it and they all wanted a second day. The issue I have is getting a date is like pulling teeth. Yep, and at the same time loads of men are also fed up with women BS in dating and just quit and stay out of dating altogether. What remains is more just swipe for men, and women will get all these swipes and choices, of those. OFC exaggerating a bit, but not too far off. To be fair, if you said this about any other gender, race, orientation, or other adjective, to describe a group, it would be considered extremely offensive and you'd probably get cancelled in some form. I'm not saying there isn't any truth to your statement, just pointing out how this is a problem within itself. Just my opinion though. I don't think it's causing the issue by any means, but it's difficult to read comments like this that feel very hateful towards a group that includes individuals who aren't a part of the problem whatsoever. I wish. Not all of us have a bunch of friends. Exactly, if a woman feels fulfilled in her life, then she's not desperate for a relationship, the way some people seem. The only reason to be in one would be because that other person brings something to your life, including love. I fear being seen as a creep as well. I think the solution is to just accept that you might be viewed as a creep, and that is okay, and it's not your fault and not really your problem. Of course, do be polite. Do be willing to make small concessions to make other people more comfortable. And be quick to accept no whether it's actually spoken or not. But if I go up to a woman and say hi and she immediately views me as a creep, that's not really about me. Inside the woman's brain the creep alarm may be going off, but that's not just because of me, it's mostly because of her past experiences and only a little because of me. I try not to take it too personal, but yes, it is hard. It's pretty easy to know what's appropriate and what's not when talking to someone. Maybe this is the root of your issues. For example, please show me your is very polite, because you said please, but it's not appropriate. I'll keep an eye out for you. Redditor with headphones. I think it's also a factor from modern feminism. When a male does approach a woman he wants to talk to, he doesn't know how the woman react. Since with modern views we are all seen as creeps or perverts. Like for instance, as of recently there was this woman taking a video of herself doing an exercise. There was a guy in the back. Not checking her out but was looking around. Maybe he was wondering when she will finish up her set so he could use the equipment. He might have been wondering why she was muttering to herself or just looking about. You can clearly see it in the video, he wasn't being a pervert and staring at her. She kept saying she didn't feel safe and all this ridiculous comments. Then she went to change the weights. He saw this and went to help her out. She said no and he left due to his thing. She had made comments on her video in regards to the guy. What if I just ripped his PP out if it's socket so he could never reproduce again, he's going to jail for staring at an underage 21-year-old etc etc. Anyway, I digress. I strongly believe for some if not most men we don't want to be seen as a creep or pervert for just wanting to just talk to the opposite gender. It's even harder when girls are in big crowds as well and you are by yourself, which I believe women feel the same way as well. You see, with other dudes we can always just brush it off saying, okay, that dude was weird but whatever.